Hi, Jeff.
Okay, it is 3:15 and we have a quorum. So I would call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Preservation Committee to order. It is Tuesday, April 16th. We're at 4 Fairgrounds and we have a quorum. Okay, the agenda is in front of you. It's been circulated. If there are no changes, I would, actually, I have one suggested change to the agenda. Maria raised an issue with me relative to the conflict of interest with respect to members of the board. So I just want to talk about that because I've got the input from Stuart Saginaw. So I would add that under new business, other business, if that's okay with everybody?
Okay, and I submitted a couple things to Glenna, and only one got on, so depending on how the meeting goes,
Right.
I'll just throw it into new business.
Yep. Okay, so the agenda as amended is approved. The minutes of March 19th were circulated. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I don't want to approve until I make a comment. Under new business, it has, after an extensive discussion, but it didn't have any points of the discussion.
Those are not necessary to be in the minutes.
Well, then it has, Ms. Zoda stated that she felt intimidated and bullied.
Where does it say that?
It says that right underneath the vote.
Okay.
And I take issue with the fact that that's the only thing that's in there.
Well, then we should delete it then.
Well, when I gave very specific information written down,
Yeah,
and it's
that's-
not in there.
that's in the
It's
file.
very disheartening to me,
That's-
when I take a lot of time and effort to do my homework, that the only thing it says that I felt bullied and intimidated.
Your points are in the file, in the CPC office. They are on file.
Okay. So just take that out, because,
We'll take that sentence out?
yeah,
Okay.
please. I know thinking about it. And the only other thing is it's corrected on the other thing. The venue is not gonna be, NISDA, it's gonna be the Athenaeum for the annual meeting.
Well, at that point in time, it was NISDA, so we will address that today.
Okay,
Okay. All right, so with that change,
that's fine.
are those minutes, Tim?
Could I just comment on that,
Sure.
Mr. Chair? Maria, do you want to attach what you raised? I assume that's what you sent in prior
Right, when
to
we
the
were
meeting?
here, Linda grabbed it, I meant to give it to Glenn, I don't know.
No,
where it
it's
wound up.
in
Okay.
the files.
Fine.
Well,
it's in.
let me just say, if you'd like to make that part of the minutes, it gets a higher profile than being in a,
In general, I find the minutes very thin. And the last two meetings we had extensive discussions. And I don't expect Glenn to include everything. But a simple summary probably would help those of us that weren't here, people that don't go and watch it on YouTube.
In the
It would
last-
be nice to have it in the record.
In the last 2
written
minutes,
record.
in the last 2 meetings, in fact, we had a full attendance at both of the meetings where these issues were discussed.
But in terms of the public in general, and to have a written for me, a written document is a lot more solid than a video.
What is the
or
preference of the
thing.
people?
That's
What
my
are we talking
opinion, I'm
about?
just giving you my opinion.
Minutes,
Yeah.
we've been told ad nauseum by town council, every town council we've ever had, minutes are not to be a verbatim and an extended
That's not what you asked.
I
explanation.
didn't say
So
verbatim,
what are
I
we
said
talking about?
The
summary.
issue is whether Maria had prepared remarks, and I indicated to her that those are in the files of the CPC to be kept there. And so the question was whether or not, Tim was asking whether or not Maria wanted to have them as an attachment to the minutes. So that's what the discussion is right now.
What is
the
the,
comments
Maybe
that you
see, what are the prepared remarks?
They're the ones that.
the ones I
that
gave
Maria-
you, Linda,
They're the ones that,
from last week.
That one.
from last meeting. so.
It'll be referenced on file at the office.
well,
It's not usual to
Come
attach
on,
those
we-
things to
Everybody has
minutes.
a chance to speak, so
That's my
that's
opinion.
your opinion.
That's what
Tim?
we've always done on all
Tim?
the other boards.
you know what I might suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we hold off on the minutes till next month. Maria will give you a chance to provide a summary. You want to attach that, that's fine?
If it'd be helpful to have this in public record.
And the reason I say that, if you'd like to attach that, the reason I think we should, is down the road, what's very helpful for the town, looking back on how things happened, is to be able to figure out what went on at a meeting. And so for historical purposes, I think if Maria would like to attach that,
I have no
Fine.
I have no problem with
yeah.
that.
So if you'd like to have that included, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes with the attached.
I know that for the HDC, when we're reviewing a previously approved or regarded application, that we get the minutes back with, and in that page is a brief summary of what was said and who said it, and in that respect, for us at the HCC, it makes good sense, because you know what's going on. And then if somebody outside the committee wants to see the stuff, they don't have to go back into Neverland to try and find it. It's right there.
So is that your motion, that
Yes.
the minutes be approved with the attachment of
Yes,
Maria's statement? Is there a second to that?
Second,
Further-
and the
further-
removal, as you said.
And the removal of the
Yep.
statement that,
Sure.
yeah. Further comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's highly inappropriate. Because if that's going to happen, then I think then something else should be put in the minutes on the opposite end of what we all, the majority, discussed. That's my problem. You've got one side that's inappropriate to attach to minutes because they don't do it at any other minutes. They reference it that it's on file, or they reference that it was there. People can go to the office and look at it. This is not something that's attached to minutes on any regular basis by any board in this town.
the
I'm having
HCC
a
has it
problem.
all, every,
The HCC does not attach the decisions or the applications or the plans. They just, here's your minutes, that's great. It references what we did at those meetings. They
That's
don't
Maria's
attach
point.
extraneous information to a set of minutes. That's not done ever. Now, I'm having a problem with this because of that, and if that's going to be the case, then I think I would like to attach something to the minutes. So that's incorrect, it's not done, and I think it's prejudicial, and I think if that's going to happen, then I think what really transpired with the majority should be attached as well if we're going to elaborate on what that discussion was.
You
Enough said.
absolutely have your right, and you had your right at that previous meeting to go ahead and do that.
Well, I don't think
If
it's
you choose to do that,
appropriate.
Linda, I don't have a problem with it, but
I do. I have a problem with either one of us doing that. It's not normal. It's not done with regular minutes. It's not done as a regular basis.
The whole issue was beyond our normal protocol. And it was as important to 4 out of 5 of us that it needed to be addressed. And I chose to address it in that manner. And it was unusual. To rescind a motion, it's the first time I've ever attempted that. But it was that important. And I think the data needs to be in the minutes. It's
But I
that
think-
simple.
The other data needs to be in the minutes. So I would rather have you hold off till next month.
I would be happy to do. I'll tell you what, I even have a better idea.
Sure.
I didn't get a second, Mr. Chairman, so
Right.
I
Yes, you
I'll
did.
second it.
I thought Maria
I
seconded
seconded it.
Oh, Diane seconded.
If the second would rescind, I would make another motion.
I'll rescind, is that what you're?
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we withhold approving the minutes today, and that we have this item reworded to reflect exactly what the tape says, and we can approve these minutes at the next meeting.
Well, I just
Is there
want
a
you
second
to,
to that one?
is there a second to that?
Yeah,
Second.
I'll second that.
Because that's also not appropriate. Town council said it is not a verbatim testimony of what's going in here. Minutes are not to be verbatim, ever. And he's told
You
us
know-
that 100 million times, not just us, everybody else. So I would rather it go back to where you were suggesting before, hold it to the next month. She can throw her thing on there, but I'm going to throw something on there.
So-
And end it that way.
Well, we ought to establish a precedent of how our minutes are presented every
Our-
month.
Our
So-
minutes are presented in accordance with the instructions that I've received from town council.
Right,
And town council
And the open
indicates there
meeting
is summary, and the open meeting law, and there are summary of the decisions, and in my point of view, in discussion, the summary that I had to do was to indicate that there was extensive discussion and that the motion didn't carry.
I'll bring it just for you.
I read the HTC minutes.
Do you, so you see how we
Yes,
do it,
yeah.
how it says Coon
Yes.
says something
Yep,
and
right,
Old
yeah.
says something.
Right.
It's
Could I-
very simple.
Yeah, Tim?
Could I speak?
Yep,
So, we started this off, where Linda was saying it's highly inappropriate. And she said if we're going to attach Maria's comments, that she'd like to attach her own. Even though that, to use her words, that's inappropriate, she wanted the right to be able to do that. That's fine with me, both sides should be reflected. In retrospect, and having a few seconds to think about it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the minutes reflecting the truth of what went on at the meeting. You can go on the town's website and you can watch it live if you so
Absolutely.
choose to.
yep,
Right?
So we should not be afraid of the minutes being memorialized with actually what happened, because it's no different than the tape being out there. So this was a highly unusual circumstance, and in my opinion, there is absolutely nothing wrong. I know I'm not town council, but by the same token, I don't have to listen to any of his influence. If the tape's out there for everybody to see, then there's certainly nothing wrong for the minutes to be out there for everybody to see. And on this particular subject, they can reflect exactly what happened. And so I think I would like to stick with my motion that we hold these for today, and next month we vote on minutes that reflect exactly what happened on this topic last month.
Not a verbatim transcript. We're not allowed to do that. Legally not allowed to do that.
So,
What
what
happened-
you're saying
yes,
makes no
what-
sense, Linda.
What
You
happened?
can watch it
is
on
what
TV
happened.
without any problem, but the minutes can't
Who said
reflect
it
The
it.
was
minutes
against
are
the law?
filed, Tim. It's a
It's
different
nonsense.
issue, and it's under the open meeting law, and it's under town council. And this, he hasn't changed his tune in 20 years.
Well, I think that,
We're
in
not
this-
gonna make an exception.
my motion stands,
In
it's
the,
seconded,
in the
let's
month
just take a
that we
vote.
have, we can, everybody can look up what they're wanting,
Yeah.
and then we can put it together and present it.
Yeah. If you wanna vote it down next month, vote
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah, so
Or
you need,
can I suggest that people make a suggestion to me in writing as to what you'd like to see incorporated in the minutes, and I can reflect on that based on the review of the tape.
fine.
But it cannot be verbatim.
You know, it said it
At
was,
this-
Linda.
at-
Take a breath.
Linda? Is that satisfactory to everybody?
Yes.
To review it, make recommendations to me?
Yes.
I will take a look at it, review it with town council, and have something for it
And you
next
make a
meeting.
presentation to us
Yes,
of how you think it should be.
yep, correct.
Good.
But what I would like to add to that, Mr. Chairman, if you don't object, so I would love to have it a few days in
Yep,
advance.
no question.
Okay.
Yep. Right. Okay. Is
Excellent solution,
Is
Mr.
that,
Chairman.
can we amend your motion to that format?
Yes, I would, yes, I would like to move that we withhold the minutes for this meeting,
Yeah,
subject to a vote when they're prepared for us next month.
yeah, after, with
With the
everybody
chairs.
having the opportunity to give input to the chair as to things they would like to see in the minutes.
Right.
Very good.
Is that satisfactory?
Yes?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Okay. Fund requisitions, there are items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A through E. I would entertain a motion to approve those as submitted.
I'm so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion with respect to those? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Diane, you need to sign this. This is the application forms. And Linda, I need you to sign these as vice chair.
These are Habitat.
Yep. Okay, with respect to new business, Maria had sent a request for an update with respect to the outstanding balances on the Noble Farm Fields, which issue had been raised by Rich Brannigan at town meeting. And Kathy, I had asked Kathy to do an update with respect to that. And Kathy, can you give us an update as to the $385,000 allocation that was made and where it stands?
The $385,000 allocation, which was taken over by the town, CPC was not allowed to pay.
In lump sum? Like they get the whole 385,000?
Yep,
Before
Okay.
your time.
they got it.
Okay.
So, and it was a change, and we had some shocking revelations around that, and town council said, yeah, the town can take it and do what they please. So it was the 385 was an allocation for the, field house, Ken?
Yep,
Okay, so they spent 229,278.23, leaving 155,721.77.
Can you read those one more time?
Yeah, we started out with 385.
Yep.
They spent 229,278.23,
Yep.
leaving 155,
Not the field,
yeah.
not
Sep-
the field
Wait,
house.
just,
155,721.77. Now, of the 229,278.23 that was spent, I believe all of it went to the playing fields except for 20,400 went to Nantucket Architecture.
who delivered plans with respect to a structure that were totally unacceptable to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. There was another one. I don't think it has anything to do with the field house.
No,
It's just
it
a
doesn't.
tiny $519.27 remaining on the field.
Right.
Now, how does this happen with this? Because when the town executes a contract, they encumber the entire amount. So it looks like it's all gone, and then suddenly we have amounts come back. It's because when the project is done, the contract is closed, and the purchase order puts the money back in the line item.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, money will appear, and you're like, well, I thought it was gone, but it's actually not. So that's how that works.
Right. Linda,
What transpired before almost all of you were on here, my project, was we had a situation where, because it was inter-town, we had a DPW superintendent who felt that she could just take the money.
Can you say that again? It's just, your voice is very low.
Before all of you got on, we had this argument, and Ken went to bat over and over and over again with Libby, with Kara, who was the former superintendent of the DPW and town council and CPC in Boston. The town took the position initially that they were going to take and do what they wanted with the money relative to the fields. And they weren't reporting it, and Neville was frustrating the heck out of Neville because he has to make a report every month to the DOR, or whatever the requirements are now, maybe different. We had no idea where the money was going. We allocated so much money and floated a bond to finish the natural field and the turf field, particularly the turf field. Because there was so much screwing up with the whole project, they ran short. They then made the decision to take the 229,278.23 to finish things with the turf field, some of which we did not approve. But be that as it may, they took the money from the allocation, which was never enough to build the field house. And because we figured they would come back and ask for more money and just accrue enough money to build the field house within a couple of years. That didn't happen. Then the Parks and Rec staff was eliminated, their budget was eliminated, and the Parks and Rec Commission, who had taken out the application and who had received the money from us, all of their funding was taken over by the DPW. So they used that 229 and change to finish the fields, leaving 155,271.77, which just sat there, because we knew there wasn't enough money. They came back and asked, and got 700 and something?
I see no evidence of that. I mean, if it came, it must have been spent, it's not, there was no balance in open space for anything like that on July 1st.
Well,
So
yeah.
was it an article?
I believe we gave them another 700
I
at one
thought so,
point.
we'll have to double check
We have to
that.
double check.
I'll
Because
get
it came
Bob
up
on
at
that
town
tomorrow.
meeting.
Yeah.
Somebody brought it up at
Do we
town
know
meeting.
what year? So I can
It
look
would
at
have
the,
been at least 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
all
and
right,
then-
I'll go back and look at the
Yeah, Rich brought it up at town meeting, and
Rich brought it up, and
I
I
don't
was like,
remember it.
what? And I said, I
Yeah.
vaguely remember it, but I don't remember them getting the
Yeah.
700,000 for it. I remember the town committing 700,000 for it, which Rob then said, that was still there for the field house. So I
Yeah.
believe it went through capital programs.
Yeah, as opposed to
As opposed to
CPC.
CPC,
I think
and
that's
that's
it
where it came
exactly.
from.
I think that's it exactly, and it's probably sitting there.
It's
The
already been allocated through town meeting, so it's hanging there, and he said they are going to begin
Yeah.
that process. But the original field house that was designed for the 20,400 had stuff that was just gonna be cost prohibitive. So they dumbed it down, and then they came up with a
Yeah.
design that would work with an overhang so they can get out of the rain, bathrooms, changing room, and maybe a small concession for water and
Mm.
stuff. But it was a much simplified structure. I believe they still had a basement for storage.
No, that
That's
was
the
one-
cheapest space in the
This
house.
is
that
the
was-
one you
that was-
presented to the HDC?
The one with the stucco side, the block sides?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was much
And the
simpler.
windows of the door, something opened up.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was a much simpler structure. So
Right.
I don't know where all this is now, but we do have a
Yeah.
couple of designs floating
Yeah.
around. One is unacceptable, one's okay. That's
Maria,
it.
What architectural firm did you use for the second set of drawings?
We did not use them. It wasn't our business to do that, and I'm not going to say it on TV.
Well, these plans are from Nantucket Architecture, and we spent $20,000 on these.
We did not, the DPW did.
Well, CPC funding, let's be clear, Linda, CPC funding paid for this design of $20,000 that is not flying, even though it's HD, I mean,
I don't know
Historic
about
District
that.
Commission
Yeah.
approved.
I don't know if that's the one they approved or not.
See,
Yes, they are.
Okay,
Got
that-
everything
that's
today. I
irrespective.
went
Are you
and-
picking a problem here?
I'm not,
No,
I'm
no.
trying to solve a problem. This
The
is,
problem was Kara did this without notifying us, and by the time we
So-
found out it was already all done, end of story. She now is not there, and Rob is much more responsive to
it's
whatever
not
we
the
need to
end of
do.
the story if we have, do we in fact have 155 CPC funds still with the town? That's the question.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so there's some money there. And if we went and got ahead with some new drawings that everybody likes, where are they? And can we access them? All you do is go to the architect and he prints them out for you.
That isn't our business, that
Yeah.
is the applicant's business,
Hang on,
which is
all
the
right.
DP,
Linda,
which
you
apparently is the
should do this.
DPW.
I'm a CPC member.
I was still,
That's great,
I was
Maria.
still in the
Maria.
town when I was there, when this happened. It was at the time when the town decided all projects by state statute had to, over a certain amount, which is a small amount, had to have a
RFP.
contract. They hired a procurement officer. They moved Diane O'Neill out of Libby's office, and she became the procurement officer. And this is what she did. From what I can gather, and I tried to put a stop to it, I tried to put a hold on the contract so that CPC could maintain control over the money they had voted, and town council said no. And so my feeling is that CPC has no say over the field house at this point.
And it's important now that we all kind of understand, because it's been confusing. All I'm saying, Linda, is let's move from here and see if we can find where this funding is, find where the drawings are, and maybe move forward to get something built. I don't care who did what at this point. We're
That's not the
talking 9
CPC's
years.
responsibility to do that. It is the DPW's and I guess Libby, not us. We don't go get an architect. That is not what the
No,
CPC
Linda,
does.
if you already, I just heard Ken say,
But that wasn't acceptable. There was another design
I
somewhere
said
else.
that, Linda, are you listening?
Apparently you're
This
not.
didn't work. No, you're not listening because you don't want to do the facts. And the facts are that we paid for this, it doesn't work fine. You must have hired some other firm to come up with this other stucco structure.
Who's you must have
I
hired?
don't know. I was on CPC
Who is the
initially.
applicant?
This Parks and Rec, but that was taken out of the Parks and Rec hands. We spent 6 months going back and forth with memorandums of agreement and everything, long before you were here. Memorandums of agreement with the town, with town council. We had an actual document on how they were supposed to respond, what they were supposed to do every month, and all that stuff. But at that point, we're not micromanaging the project. The DPW took it over, and they were the ones micromanaging the project, and the procurement officer, whoever it was at the time, not the CPC. Period.
Who's
They
the
weren't
pri-
even coming to us to have the vouchers signed off on. They were doing it on their own. Town council said they could do that on their own, and off they went. But we had the memorandum of agreement where when they spent money, they had to report it to Neville so he could report it to the DOR. That's how that went. I'm not retreading
Yeah.
it, I'm not re-arguing it.
And the fact is
No
that.
one, no one is saying
Hang
anything
on, okay,
pro or
both-
con.
Right, you're both talking about the same thing. The issue, your question is what steps need to be taken next?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the steps that need to be taken next is that there needs to be, getting together with Rob, McNeil to find out, for the project manager, which is Linda, to get in touch with him to find out next steps as to how to move forward with this. Secondly, to confirm that there's $700,000 in the capital account to move forward with this, and then have them come back to us with respect to what they're gonna do in terms of spending the $155,000 that we allocated. Is that what
That's
should
pretty
be the
much
next
what Rob
steps?
said, but I have no problem with
Yeah,
it.
Do we have a timeline, sort of?
well, the point is that this issue has been brought forward by at town meeting, by Rick, at town meeting. And so you asked to be put on the agenda. I have it on the agenda, and I've had Kathy do the research with respect to the
Thank you,
numbers
Kathy.
so that we can move forward with respect to this. So, Linda's the project manager. She's gonna be moving forward with this to talk to Rob and come back hopefully by next week meeting, if not by next meeting, the meeting after, with respect to a plan as to how to move forward. Is that satisfactory to you, Linda?
Oh, yeah, we've been on this for,
Is that satisfactory to the rest,
Yes,
and the
and I
rest of the
only
board?
have one other question, because it sounds like, we were between a rock and a hard place with the town.
That's
Could this
different.
happen again?
No,
Yeah.
no,
No, we have a memorandum.
no, the point is that, I've spent a lot of time with Brian, the, chief financial officer of the town, right?
What's
And-
Brian's last name again?
Turbot.
Turbot, right?
Turbot.
And there's a clear understanding with respect to the role of the town relative to the CPC funds, and that the procedure that we have worked with is that if they have to commit funds, they're gonna be telling us exactly where they were, what they went for, and what they were spent, because we have an obligation to make sure that the expenditure of the funds is in accordance with what we approved, and what we recommended to and what was approved at town meeting, because we have a duty and obligation to report to the DOR. That was never clearly understood, although it was told many, many times, it was not honored. It is now being honored. So,
Could I ask a quick question
Sure.
on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? So if I listen to the scenario of how this played, and the original appropriation was for field
355.
house,
yeah.
then,
Well, it was all, Tim, it was in connection with that whole project.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how they got the money.
And so the point was is that it was with respect to the project, a portion of it was supposed to be allocated to the field house.
okay,
The
That-
expenditures of the monies were, there was not clarity in terms of understanding as to how much had been allocated to the field house, how much had been allocated to the overall project.
well, here's my question. The responsibility of CPC to report to the state on how the funds were expended,
Yeah, well, they were expended in connection with the project, okay?
We just didn't, we weren't told until way after they spent the money
Yeah.
or what they spent it on.
So I don't
the usual
see
stuff.
us having a problem because they were all spent in conjunction with the playing fields, right? The fact is, a portion of them weren't spent specifically on the construction of this structure as opposed to the overall playing fields. The money never went anywhere else other than to create the playing fields.
so if I look back in CPC minutes, this money, when you went through the normal process, was global in nature to the,
It was,
or
it-
specific
That's
to
what
a
they
field
said.
house?
yeah,
Can I put some input, because
sure,
and with all due respect, Linda, I was the person who got the fields going, and Charles and I did it. And there were two phases. The first phase were the fields, the second phase was the pavilion. So they were two separate CPC applications. So the moneying of the funds was, the town decided to do that. There were two separate applications. The fields were first, the next year we came back and we asked for the pavilion. So,
I just wanna say that when this came down, and I saw that the PO, the purchase order, connected with the contract for the turf, the artificial turf, I was shocked to see that it included the line item for the field house. And when I questioned over and over, the, what I was told was that the turf came in way over budget, and they had to pay it, so they paid it
Yep.
the way they felt. And they went through town council,
Right.
so that was that.
We spent
Linda.
many a meeting on this
Yep.
one.
Do you
week
remember-
after week.
Back some time that they hadn't put the striping down on the field?
Yep.
What was that, like 6, 7 years ago?
Yep.
I think that's when we had looked and approved the field house, but, the fields weren't done yet, and Kara wasn't she just starting?
No, she'd already been there for a little while.
Had she?
We were having trouble at that point anyway, because then they went ahead and put a logo on the field, which we did not approve.
Right.
It went on, there was a bunch of stuff, fencing, the regular natural grass field was destroyed twice. I mean, it just went on and on
And,
and on.
the part
I
of the
know all
real,
that.
part of the problem was too, is that they wiped out Parks and Rec, in terms of, because Parks and Rec was actually the applicant with respect to the.
Right, and
the-
they were gone.
And they were wiped out by the town.
Exactly.
So,
So it has been a very complex
Yeah.
issue, but now at least I think we can kind of, since Jack's been in on it since day one.
Yeah.
So now it's clear to me what happened, because you ask and people are like, well, I don't know what happened.
This is
Now
much-
we
much
know.
clearer, because we didn't understand that it's Park and Rec either. We had nothing.
Yeah, they
No idea
blindsided
what-
you
Yeah,
guys.
right, yeah.
Everything just went
Completely.
right around us.
Anyway,
Yeah,
what's
it went right
encouraging
around you.
is we're now at a point in time where I think we're going to have the cooperation from the town in order to be able to get this resolved
Yeah.
and avoid the embarrassment of having a fantastic multi-million-dollar playing field that doesn't have a John.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Mr.
Or
I'm
water.
sorry. So
Whatever
if I
works.
follow the discussion correctly, Mr. Chairman, the 700,000 in the capital budget for this,
Right.
along with 155,
Yeah,
so hopefully for 855, we can get it completed.
hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I know there's a
I-
bunch of guys that, the kids play soccer, because I ran it for 20-some-odd years.
Yeah.
And I know there's a bunch of parents that are contractors that want to see
It
that
seems like
done.
a pretty healthy
So I think we
budget.
can
Budget,
probably
yeah.
get a lot of people to
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. All right, so are we comfortable that we will look forward to a further detailed report and status from Linda either at the next meeting or the following meeting, depending on how quickly it can get resolved?
What's the story on that money that Bob was talking about that $700,000 or $800,000?
Well, that's a capital account, and we're
It's
gonna
not
double,
from us.
it's gonna, we're gonna double check to make sure, because Rob has said that money is there, so.
Because I remember a couple of years ago, we had it put in there to
Yeah.
see if it would get through
Yeah.
CAP program,
Yeah.
and I remember it did.
Did that 700 come from CPC?
No,
No.
Came from
capital
taxpayers.
Came from
programs.
town.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
We
Okay,
never got
So
that
it
much
got
of it.
approved,
Right.
but it's sitting there.
yeah, right,
No, so that's
I'm
good.
pretty sure.
which is good. It means that it's still sitting there is really good,
Yeah.
right.
As long as
Okay.
they rescind
So
it.
there's no reporting,
No,
I'm
he
sorry,
said it
Mr.
was
No,
still there.
sorry.
So there's no
We haven't
reporting or
heard
anything on this
going around.
anyways? The town,
It's just sitting there.
this money's already been,
You know how they
the
rescind it?
full
She's left.
385 has already been reported to the state, taken over by the town, so to speak.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that the balance of 155 goes to what it was intended to. Maria had asked me an issue with respect to whether or not there was a conflict of interest with respect to a member representing an organization on the CPC voting in favor of matters that come before that, where there is a conflict of interest. And the answer is absolutely not. There's no conflict at all if both boards are town boards, which is what all of the representation here on the CPC are. They're all town boards, so that anything that is voted on with respect to a benefit to another town board does not create a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest can only exist between personal interests and town interests. Maria asked me, for instance, in my instance, why I would recuse myself, and I tried to explain to her then, but I will again. What happens is that because I sit on a number of boards of nonprofits who are applicants, even though I have no personal interest in the result in terms of it, and therefore I would not technically need to have to recuse myself. I think perception, public perception, is really important. And so in the instance where there is a private 501c3 applying for funds, if I sit on the board there or in the church was on the vestry of the church. I recused myself so that it wouldn't be perceived by the town that I had an unfavorable advantage or was giving an advantage to an organization.
I
So,
can see that. I
yeah.
understand.
Okay, and this is for everybody, I got this from the CPC, because I think, it's a little fuzzy sometimes, and,
How fuzzy?
can you give me a second? Obviously, if you're on the housing thing, if you're the housing representative, you know, you naturally have, can vote or whatever.
And the
But
same
they
thing
do-
goes with the housing trust.
They do ask you to be objective, and when St. Mary's came up, because I'm a parishioner, I recused myself, Ken's recused herself. Maybe it's time for our organization to come up with, you know, I said, look at this, think it over, maybe we can come up with our own protocol for when we think it's okay, or when we think we should recuse ourselves, rather than just leave it. You know, I felt I should recuse myself, and I did. Ken felt he should recuse
But
himself.
they were
Those
not
are
government,
private
they were
entities.
private entities
This
that
is
were applying.
government.
Those were private entities that were applying for funds. In
What
an
do you
email
mean
that.
they were all 501(c)(3)s.
Yes, but
Yeah,
not
they're
town
not
government.
government, they're not government entities.
Well, this is what Stuart said to me, which even seemed more confusing. He said, if it was a 501(c)(3), then the person should recuse themselves because it specifically helps that housing entity or rec entity or whatever it was. If it was the town, then it benefits everyone in the community, and you don't have to recuse yourself. So I find the whole issue of recusing yourself confusing, and I've read this a couple of times, and I'm still not totally clear, and maybe as a group, you know, maybe next week, think about it. Are we happy with that, or do we need to come up with our own
It says,
simple?
Maria, in this email that I have in front of me from CPC, where he also affects it, he says, it looks as if to me you wanted to know if CPC members can vote on applications submitted by the board that appointed them to the CPC. Absolutely. There is no conflict there at all if both boards are town boards. Generally, conflicts only exist between personal interests and town interests. But in this case, the person is only serving the town in both boards.
Yeah, try it.
So with respect to any of the things where the town board benefits, there is no conflict at all. It's not possible.
So I
With re-
did not need to recuse myself for St. Mary's?
The answer,
And
the,
not
in-
a town
no,
board.
but hang on a second.
Linda,
No.
let me listen to
The-
him,
the-
I
the-
don't understand
No,
this.
No, what I said before was that absolutely, I don't think you had to recuse yourself
Okay.
because of the fact that you are not part of the management of St. Paul's Church. You are a member. You have no influence over the direction of the church, what have you. Now, in the situation that I've recused myself at St. Paul's, I was on the member of the vestry, which is the lay executive part, all right? Now, I have no personal interest whatsoever, no personal gain from that, but it was important to me for the visibility in the community that a person who could be perceived as somehow being not objective with respect to his vote would vote. So therefore, I recused myself, although legally I did not have to have any obligation to do so. But I chose to do it because visibility was more important to me than
Perception
the
is
fact.
very important too.
That is part of
Yeah.
the ethics law,
Yeah.
is whether you have an actual, and I have the ethics commission on speed dial, just so you
Yeah,
know, and I checked it all out.
Okay, that's enough.
But it's on, you have an actual, which is financial, et cetera, et cetera. I have little cheat sheets at home for you. Or it's perceived. When you are sitting on an independent, private 501(c)(3) that is applying to any of the boards we sit on, you don't sit because of perception. If you are on the housing trust, if you're on CPC, if you're on affordable, if you're on the housing authority, you can sit because they are all part of the town. I've been over this for 35, 36 years now. I have a speed dial up to the ethics commission. It is fine. I would not sit on things that came in from private entities. I wouldn't even do it, as Diane knows, at the HCC, if the Housing Authority came in or something like that, because I wasn't comfortable doing that. In the case of the fact that I am the housing representative, I can sit by state statute. The ethics violations or ethics questions or ethics recusals are not subject to the board decision at any time for any reason. All ethics, as Tim knows, on the selectmen, anytime you think you have an ethics issue or you want to recuse or you want a reason to recuse, you call the ethics commission, not town council, not the board making up the rules like you just said, nothing. It's up to the individual. If they then sit on something that they have a financial interest involved or the perception from the public is so strong that it looks like bad news, then you are subject to sanctions or a disapproval by the ethics commission. It has nothing to do with what you think about me recusing, or Ken recusing, or Tim recusing, or anybody else. That's not how the ethics rules work. I recuse if I feel I can't be fair. You recuse because you may be on a board like Ken of some independent 501c3. You don't recuse if you're on all the government boards, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. Because it's all, quote unquote, by a previous town council, it's all in the furtherance of the town objectives. So there's no conflict if you sit on, like Jack and I sat on 1,000,000 boards, you have as well, there's no conflict.
Any questions, further questions on that?
Cut it out.
Okay.
Excuse me?
Please, Linda, I
Let's
would
not
I
be-
would ask that you respect others as I ask them to
I'm
respect you.
fine, except that
No,
this
no.
is a personal attack by
No,
her.
but
It's not a
Please,
personal attack,
please,
Linda. We're all on the
please.
committee together.
This-
Apparently not.
Linda, please.
I'm just not happy that, if you wanted to ask an ethics question about the boards that I sit on for the town,
I'm not
then ask me
asking
directly about
your
why I
particular
recuse or not recuse.
ethics, Linda. I'm
She asked
asking to
you-
get a
No, it was
are you
not, it was not with respect to any individual, it was respect to the issue of the difference between why I recused myself and what the law generally was with respect to.
But you're not on any other boards. There are multiple boards, and I'm on those multiple boards.
That,
And why am I not recusing?
No, but the point is that I have, the answer is very clear, and I think it's been expressed to everybody here in terms of what the rules are,
Yeah.
which are different rules with respect to government entities and with respect to private 501c3s that apply to us.
And they expect us to be objective.
Yeah,
And that's it.
Yeah. Annual public forum. Because of work that's being done out at NISDA, we can't have it at NISDA, and Molly has agreed that we could have it at the Athenaeum again.
That's too bad. I was looking forward to that out there.
I know, maybe next year. The NHS library said that we could use it there, but I don't think that that's as good a venue. I think we will get a better attendance at the Athenaeum. So if that's okay, we've got the ads all ready to go with the event being held on May 21st at 4 o'clock at the Athenaeum. Is that, everybody comfortable with that as a
Are we
location?
meeting before, or do we have a meeting on that,
We have a meeting on that day.
like at 3:15?
I'm not sure, I don't know whether or not it's 3:15 or we started at 4. Anyway, we do have a meeting slightly right
Okay,
before
and
that.
I'll, do the radios, because it's a free ad,
Oh,
because it's,
Yeah.
what do you call it?
Public service.
Community public service.
Yeah.
So I'll call the,
Yeah.
What about the Legion,
station.
which got a lot of money from us, or the, one of the churches which have spaces? Because we've given money to all the churches except for Summer Street.
Yeah,
When is this meeting?
the issue was,
May.
the issue was
Of May.
dealing with NISDA.
Raphael.
NISDA came up at the last minute, and we wanted to have a centralized location with respect to it. And we wanted to, and Athenaeum is in fact a beneficiary, just as some of the churches.
I just thought it might be great, because there is more parking up towards Congo Church or Unitarian Church. I mean, they've all gotten money from us in
Well,
town.
yeah, again, the logistics of getting everything done. So I would ask you to agree to that be at the Athenaeum this year.
I'll get that baked goods as usual.
Yeah, okay. I don't have anything else on the agenda. Anyone have anything else they wanted to raise?
I got this from, the other thing I thought might be helpful, because there was a question of when it's okay to rescind and when not to rescind. So the town clerk gave me a nice Robert's Rules summary version. So if anybody wants one, it clearly delineates, because, you know, we all think we know Robert's Rules and then, oh, that's a little different. So if anybody wants one, I just copied it for anybody who wants.
I actually have a hard copy.
Anything else that anyone would like to deal with today? Otherwise, if not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah. it-
4:01.
really-
4:01.
it's
All in
nice,
favor?
simple.
Aye.
Okay, thank
So
you
the
very
next
much.
meeting is the annual meeting.
It is the annual meeting, yeah.
Maybe a short meeting before that, but
Yeah.
fine
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
I got